"Don't be dramatic," said my son-in-law when I had a heart attack after his Halloween prank. But when I came back from the hospital, the game was over. He thought he had the right to mock the old fool who paid for his lifestyle. He screamed, and this time it wasn't a mask. I turned his life into a nightmare. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The plastic skeleton dangled from my hand, its jaw frozen in a permanent grin. I'd been digging through storage boxes in the garage, hunting for the fog machine, when Wesley's voice cut through the thin wall, separating us from the backyard. "Yeah, the old fool pays for everything while I build my business. Free rent, free food, the whole deal." I stopped breathing. The skeleton swayed slightly. "Best setup ever, man. Just gotta put up with him hovering around." His laughter, casual, comfortable, drifted through the October evening. I stood there, cardboard box edges cutting into my palm, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not pain, not yet, just recognition. 4 years of temporary financial troubles, 4 years of supporting them. And this is what he said when I wasn't supposed to hear. I forced myself to move. The decorations needed to go up. That's what I did every Halloween. That's who I'd always been. The Arizona sunset painted the sky in streaks of orange and purple as I carried boxes to the front porch. My hands worked automatically, stringing orange lights along the railing, positioning jack-o'-lanterns, arranging the fog machine. Each action felt mechanical now, distant. Wesley's words played on a loop in my head. The old fool. I clipped fake spider webs to the doorframe and remembered doing this with Margaret, her laughter bright and genuine. She'd been gone 3 years. Now I decorated alone while the people living in my house, the house she and I had bought together, paid off over 30 years, treated it like a free hotel. Darkness settled over the neighborhood as I returned to the garage for the final box, the animatronic witch that cackled when triggered. The garage was dim, lit only by a single bulb that cast long shadows across the concrete floor. I bent to lift the box. Behind me, a chainsaw engine roared to life. The sound exploded in the confined space, deafening. A figure lunged from the shadows, grotesque horror mask, chainsaw raised, screaming. My heart seized, not figuratively. The pain erupted in my chest like a vice tightening, crushing, radiating down my left arm. I stumbled backward. The box crashed to the floor. My hand clawed at my chest. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. The pain was obliterating everything else. Wesley pulled off the mask, grinning. The chainsaw, I could see now it had no blade, just noise, idled in his hand. "Come on, Eldon, don't be so dramatic. It's just Halloween fun." I tried to form words. My voice came out as a gasp. "Call ambulance." My vision blurred at the edges. My legs wouldn't hold me. I sank to my knees, one hand still pressed against my chest, where the pain radiated outward like fire. Wesley's grin faded to annoyance. "You're fine. Stop overreacting." Footsteps. Cora appeared in the doorway, backlit by the house lights. She saw me on my knees, gasping for air. "Wesley, what happened?" "Nothing." He got startled. "He's fine, just wants attention." My hand shook as I fumbled for my phone in my pocket. My fingers felt numb, clumsy. I managed to pull it out, stared at the screen until it made sense. Dialed 911. Wesley watched with crossed arms. Cora stood frozen in the doorway, uncertain. The operator's voice came through tinny and distant. 911, what's your emergency?" I forced the words past the crushing weight in my chest. "Heart attack." "Sir, can you describe your symptoms?" "Chest, crushing, left arm, can't breathe." "An ambulance is on the way. Stay on the line with me." 8 minutes out. I lay down on the cold garage floor, phone pressed to my ear. The operator asked questions, my age, medications, what happened. I answered in gasps. Wesley had retreated into the house. Cora knelt beside me now, but her hand on my shoulder felt weightless, meaningless. "Dad, you'll be okay. You probably just panicked." I looked at her, my daughter, and saw a stranger. The pain in my chest was physical, unbearable. The pain somewhere deeper was worse. The operator's calm voice guided me through the weight. "Stay still. Keep breathing. Help is coming." In the background, I heard Wesley's voice from inside the house. Casual, maybe laughing at something on TV. Cora remained kneeling beside me. one hand on my shoulder, a gesture that felt more like performance than care. 4 minutes away now, sir. I closed my eyes. The pain radiated through my body in waves, but beneath it a thought formed, cold and clear as ice water. They're not going to help me. I'm on my own. The siren grew louder, then stopped. Red and blue lights flashed against the garage walls, painting everything in urgent colors. Paramedics rushed in with equipment, all efficiency and purpose. They asked questions, rapid fire, my age, medications, what happened. Chest pain, I managed. Started suddenly. Called myself. One paramedic glanced toward the lit windows of the house. Family here? We can take one person in the ambulance. I nodded toward the doorway where Wesley and Cora still stood, watching. The paramedic disappeared briefly, returned with a neutral expression that told me everything. They said they'll come to the hospital tomorrow. Can't ride with us right now. The words landed like stones in still water. They're not coming. That's what they said, sir. We need to go now. They lifted me onto the stretcher, wheeled me past the Halloween decorations I'd hung just an hour ago. Through the pain and the oxygen mask, I saw Wesley and Cora in the doorway, watching, not moving. The ambulance doors closed, cutting them from view. Banner University Medical Center's emergency room was bright, cold, urgent. Doctors and nurses swarmed around me. IV lines, EKG leads, blood pressure cuffs squeezing rhythmically. Dr. Mitchell, a woman in her 50s with quick hands and calm eyes, read the monitors, her face serious. Mr. Woods, you've had an acute myocardial infarction, a serious heart attack. We need to get you to the cath lab immediately to place stents and restore blood flow to your heart. Time is critical. Do you understand? I nodded through the oxygen mask. We're going to take good care of you. But we need to move now. The ceiling tiles blurred as they wheeled me down hallways. The terms washed over me, blocked arteries, stent placement, cardiac catheterization. This is serious, I thought. This could kill me. And they stayed home. The catheterization lab was sterile, quiet except for beeping monitors. Dr. Mitchell explained they were inserting stents to open my blocked arteries. I was awake but sedated, watching the procedure on a screen I didn't understand. 2 stents. The pressure in my chest eased slightly. You're lucky, Dr. Mitchell said. You called quickly. Another 20 minutes. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Lucky, I'd called myself. Saved myself. Because the people living in my house couldn't be bothered. The intensive care unit was quiet at night, just the symphony of monitors and ventilators humming around me. I lay in the hospital bed, wires connecting me to machines that tracked every heartbeat. 3 days passed in a haze of medication and vital sign checks. Cora visited once, on the 2nd day. Stayed 15 minutes. Dad, oh my gosh, this place is so hard to find. And parking is terrible. I've been so worried. I watched her scroll through her phone while she talked. You came once, I said quietly. It's a long drive, and Wesley needed the car for his meetings. You understand? She checked the time on her phone. I should go soon. Traffic gets bad. She left, promised to visit again, didn't return. Wesley never appeared, not once. Nurses came and went, kind strangers providing more care than my own family. On the 3rd night, a nurse named Rose checked my IV. She was older, with gentle hands and tired eyes. She looked at the empty chair beside my bed. Honey, where's your family? You shouldn't be alone after something like this. Most patients have someone here constantly. I was silent for a long moment. They're busy. Rose's expression softened. I see. After she left, I lay in the darkness, unable to sleep despite the exhaustion. Her question echoed through my mind. Where's your family? I started calculating. 4 years. They'd moved in when Wesley's business opportunity fell through. Temporary, they'd said, just until we get back on our feet. My house, the house Margaret and I had bought together, paid off over 30 years, became their free housing. Market rent in Phoenix for a house like mine. $2,500 a month, times 48 months. $60,000. Utilities, another $350 monthly. $17,000. Groceries, insurance, repairs to the roof last year, the new water heater. I paid for everything. The number crystallized in my mind. $140,000. 4 years of support. And when my heart stopped, they stayed home. watching TV. My fingers tapped against the hospital blanket, performing the calculations again. Verifying. The numbers didn't lie. Where's your family? The answer formed, cold and final. They're not. Not anymore. I whispered it to myself in the darkness. 4 years. 140,000. Pause. And they stayed home. Longer pause. Where's your family? My hand curled into a loose fist on the blanket. I'm done. I'm done being used. Outside my door, the hospital continued its night rhythms. Distant voices, squeaking wheels. The occasional alarm from another room. My phone sat on the bedside table. Screen, dark. Tomorrow, Dr. Mitchell had said, they'd discuss discharge plans. Tomorrow I'd need someone to pick me up, drive me home. I already knew who wouldn't volunteer. My hand rested on the blanket, fingers tapping the slow rhythm, not nervous, but calculating. The numbers kept running through my mind. 140,000. 4 years. 1 visit. 0 calls. The tapping stopped. My hand curled into a loose fist. Outside, the Phoenix night was dark, but morning would come, and when it did, things would be different. A week after the heart attack, Dr. Mitchell signed the discharge papers. I sat on the edge of the hospital bed, dressed in clothes Cora had dropped at the nurse's station yesterday. Not delivered in person, just left there like luggage. Complete rest for at least 2 weeks, Dr. Mitchell said, handing me a thick folder. No strenuous activity. Take these medications exactly as prescribed. Avoid stress. Your heart needs to heal. Follow-up appointment is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Do you have someone at home to help you? I paused. Yes, I'll manage. The wheelchair ride to the entrance was hospital policy. At the automatic doors, no family car waited. I pulled out my phone, ordered a taxi. The driver helped me into the back seat with my discharge folder and small bag. More care than my relatives had shown. As we pulled away from Banner University Medical Center, I watched the building recede in the side mirror. I'd survived. Alone. The taxi turned into my neighborhood 20 minutes later. Familiar streets lined with desert landscaping and tile roofs. My house appeared, and something tightened in my chest. Not cardiac pain, but recognition. The Halloween decorations I'd hung before everything changed still sagged there, pathetic in the November daylight. The driver helped me to the door with my bag. I paid, tipped well, watched him leave. Then I stood on my own porch, key in hand, took a breath, opened the door. The smell hit first. Stale food, unwashed dishes, something sour from the kitchen. The living room was chaos. Pizza boxes stacked on the coffee table, beer bottles lined up on the end table, dirty plates scattered across surfaces. The television blared some daytime show. Wesley sprawled on my couch. Cora sat in the armchair, both staring at the screen. Neither turned. Wesley's voice came flat, eyes still on the TV. "Oh, you're back. We thought you'd stay longer." Not welcome home. Not how are you feeling. Just surprised that I'd returned to my own house. "You should have called," Cora added, glancing over. "We weren't expecting you today." I stood in the doorway, hospital bag in hand. I was discharged. This is my home. Wesley shrugged. "Yeah, sure." I carried my bag past them, down the hall to my bedroom. Unpacked, slowly. Changed into comfortable clothes. The house felt foreign, occupied by strangers who looked like people I'd once known. Evening settled. I made myself simple food in the chaotic kitchen, soup and toast, following the dietary restrictions Dr. Mitchell had emphasized. I cleared just enough counter space to work, surrounded by their mess. Wesley and Cora emerged when they smelled food, helped themselves without asking, carried bowls to the dining table. I joined them with my own meal, moving carefully, still fragile. Silence stretched between bites. Then Cora spoke, her voice artificially light, almost cheerful. "Dad, honestly, it was so peaceful without you here. No offense, but you're always hovering, watching everything we do. We could finally relax." My spoon paused halfway to my mouth. "I was in the hospital," I said quietly. "I know, but still." She became defensive. "You have to admit, you can be a lot sometimes." Wesley leaned back in his chair, nodding. "Yeah, man. You need to chill and give us space. This is our home, too. You act like we're guests or something." I set my spoon down carefully, looked at it resting against the bowl's edge. "This is your home, too," I repeated. Exactly. Wesley gestured with his fork. So stop treating us like we don't belong here. I looked up, met his eyes. Then Cora's. My daughter. My only child. Strangers wearing familiar faces. I understand now, I said after a long pause. Perfectly. Neither caught the undertone. They continued eating, discussing something they'd watched on television while I was fighting for my life in intensive care. Late that night, the house finally quiet, I sat in my study and locked the door. This small room felt like sanctuary, the one space they hadn't colonized. I opened the filing cabinet, removed folders I hadn't examined in months, years, the property deed, my name only, purchased 32 years ago with Margaret, my late wife, paid off 15 years ago, clear title, my will, drafted after she died, simple document leaving everything to Cora. I stared at it. The woman who'd just told me my presence made her uncomfortable. Bank statements, pension deposits, Social Security, savings account built over 40 years of careful planning, medical reports from the hospital, acute myocardial infarction, high-risk event, patient called 911 himself. That detail was documented. I arranged the papers in neat stacks, the former school administrator organizing evidence, opened my laptop, searched Arizona landlord-tenant law, filled my notepad with bullet points, procedures, requirements, rights. Around 2 in the morning, I leaned back in my chair. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but the foundation was there. Systematic, legal, irreversible. I stood, stretched carefully, still recovering, still physically fragile, but not mentally. Walked to the study window, looked out at the dark street, neighbors' houses with their warm lights, normal families, functional relationships. I'd spent 35 years as a school principal, dealing with problems, enforcing rules, protecting the institution. I knew how systems worked. Documentation mattered. Legal processes properly followed were unstoppable. Behind me on the desk, the documents waited. The deed with my name, the medical reports proving abandonment, the will that needed changing, the research about eviction procedures. I placed one hand flat against the cool glass. Outside, a car passed. Life continued. Mine should too. But first, I needed to reclaim it. Tomorrow, I'd start making calls. Tonight, I was done being a victim. My reflection in the dark window showed something new in my expression. Not anger. That was too hot. Too temporary. This was colder, more permanent. I opened my laptop again, typed into the search bar. Estate planning attorney, Phoenix, Arizona. The screen glowed. Results appeared. I started reading reviews, taking notes. Morning was still hours away, but I was already working. 4 days later, I sat in my car outside a professional building in central Phoenix. The drive had taken 30 minutes, my first time driving since the heart attack. My hands had been steady on the wheel, following Dr. Mitchell's clearance for light activity. I'd found Margaret Chen through the hospital's resource list, then verified her credentials online. Estate planning specialist, 23 years experience, reviews from clients in situations resembling mine. Fee, $350 per hour, 90-minute consultation. I'd called yesterday, got an appointment for today. The folder of documents sat on the passenger seat, the same papers I'd organized that night in my study. I checked my watch, 15 minutes early. Good. Time to compose myself. This wasn't about emotion, this was about strategy. I picked up the folder, exited the car, walked toward the entrance. Margaret Chen's office occupied the 4th floor, tastefully furnished. Law books lining one wall, diplomas and certifications on another. She was mid-50s, sharp-eyed, dressed in a charcoal suit, extended her hand firmly. "Mr. Woods, thank you for coming in. Tell me what brings you here." I sat across from her desk, opened my folder. My voice came level, factual, the tone I'd used for 35 years addressing parents, school boards, superintendent reviews. No drama, just facts. I need to remove my daughter and son-in-law from my property. They've lived there 4 years without paying rent. 2 weeks ago, my son-in-law's actions triggered a heart attack. Neither visited me properly in the hospital. I want them out, and I want to change my will. Margaret took notes, listening. I slid documents across her desk as I spoke. property deed first, then medical reports, bank statements showing the financial support I'd provided. When I finished, she sat back, picked up the property deed, examined it. Mr. Woods, legally speaking, they're tenants in your home even without a formal lease. Arizona law is very specific about this. She turned her computer monitor so I could see. Pulled up Arizona revised statutes. You'll need to follow proper eviction procedure. 30-day notice first, then court filing if necessary. The key is perfect documentation. No shortcuts. Everything by the book. Can you commit to that? I was a school principal for 35 years, I said. I understand procedures. I'll follow every rule. She nodded, printed copies of the relevant statutes, added them to my folder, explained the timeline. 30-day notice to quit. No reason required for month-to-month tenancy. If they didn't leave, I'd file an unlawful detainer action in justice court. Hearing within 3 weeks. When I won, and I would, given clear ownership, the court would issue a writ of restitution. Constable enforces removal. Total timeline, she said, 60 to 90 days from first notice. I absorbed this. 2 to 3 months. Longer than I'd hoped, but acceptable if the process was certain. Margaret opened a second file on her computer. Now regarding your will, in Arizona, you have complete freedom regarding beneficiaries. You're not legally required to leave anything to adult children. She paused, studied my face. Are you certain about this change? It's a significant decision. Once your daughter learns about it, your relationship may be permanently damaged. When I had a heart attack, I said steadily, she told me my absence was peaceful, that I hover too much. The relationship is already damaged. I'm simply acknowledging reality. Margaret nodded slowly. Then we'll make it legally bulletproof. You can designate charitable organizations as primary beneficiaries. I'd suggest leaving your daughter a nominal amount, typically $1 to demonstrate she wasn't forgotten. That makes the will harder to contest. She explained the process. Draft review, revisions, notarization, 2 witnesses, timeline, 2 weeks for completion. She could also prepare a living will and healthcare power of attorney, given my recent medical event. Total fees, she said, $2,500 for both the eviction notice preparation and the complete will revision package. I didn't hesitate. Pulled my checkbook from my jacket pocket, brought specifically for this purpose. Wrote the check. My savings account, built over 40 years, had more than sufficient funds. Margaret accepted the check, provided a receipt. The notice will be ready Friday. You must personally serve it to both of them. Hand it directly to each person. Document the date and time you serve it. Take a photo if possible. Then wait exactly 30 days before any further action. I understand. 30 days. Document everything. She stood, extended her hand again. Mr. Woods, for what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Sometimes family earns their place, sometimes they don't. I shook her hand, nodded once, walked to the door. In the parking garage, I sat in my car without starting the engine. The folder rested on my lap. Through the windshield, downtown Phoenix rose in geometric patterns. Buildings, streets, systems. Everything in this city ran on rules, permits, codes, laws. I understood that world. Margaret Chen would prepare the documents. I'd serve the notice. The system would execute the rest. It wasn't revenge. Revenge was emotional, chaotic, unreliable. This was justice, procedural, documented, irreversible. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking space, began the drive back to Ahwatukee, back to the house that was legally mine. That would soon actually be mine. In 3 days, I'd have the eviction notice. In 2 weeks, the new will. The timeline was established. The plan was in motion. For the first time since Halloween night, something in my chest eased. Not the cardiac pain, but the weight of helplessness. I wasn't helpless anymore. My exit approached on the freeway. I signaled, merged right, took the ramp toward home. Familiar streets appeared. My neighborhood. The house with the sagging Halloween decorations I still hadn't taken down. I pulled into the driveway. Wesley's car sat there, unemployed Wesley, who stayed home all day in my house, living off my retirement savings. I turned off the engine, picked up the folder, sat for a moment looking at the front door. In 3 days, I'd walk through that door with a legal document. Everything would change then, but not yet. For now, I'd go to my study, lock the door. Wait. The folder felt solid in my hands. Real. Actionable. I opened the car door, stepped out into the Arizona afternoon heat, walked toward my house carrying the weight of what came next. 3 days passed in careful routine, medications at precise times, short walks around the neighborhood, cardiac rehabilitation exercises. I stayed in my study most hours, door locked, avoiding Wesley and Cora except for necessary encounters in the kitchen. They noticed my withdrawal, misread it as defeat, as acceptance of the status quo. Friday afternoon, my phone chimed. Message from Margaret Chen. Documents ready for pickup. I drove to her office, signed acknowledgement forms, received 2 sealed envelopes, one for Wesley, one for Cora. Margaret walked me through the service requirements one final time. Hand each person their notice personally. Document the date and time. Photograph, if possible. This starts the 30-day clock. I nodded. Placed the envelopes in my folder. Drove home. Saturday morning. Today. I woke at 6, showered, dressed carefully, slacks and a button-down shirt, as if preparing for a school board meeting. Formal occasions required appropriate presentation. Made coffee. Ate breakfast alone in the kitchen while the house remained silent. Around 9, sounds of movement upstairs. Wesley and Cora stirring. I sat at the dining table, the 2 envelopes before me, waited. Wesley appeared first, shuffling toward the kitchen in sweatpants and an old t-shirt. Morning, he muttered, not making eye contact. My voice was calm, authoritative. Wesley, Cora, I need both of you in the dining room. Now. Something in my tone made him pause. What's this about? Just come. Bring Cora. 5 minutes later, they stood before me. Wesley suspicious, Cora anxious. I remained seated, picked up the first envelope. This is for you, Wesley. Extended it across the table. And this is for you, Cora. Wesley took his envelope, frowning. Cora's hand trembled slightly as she accepted hers. What is this? Open them. Wesley tore his open first, pulled out the official document. His eyes scanned the header. 30-day notice to quit premises. His face transformed. Confusion, then comprehension, then rage. What the? You can't kick us out. This is ridiculous. His voice rose to a shout. Cora read hers more slowly, tears already forming. Dad, I'm your daughter. How can you do this to me? To us? My hands remained flat on the table. Voice level. This is my house. I've supported you for 4 years. You showed me I'm just a burden. When I was in the hospital with a heart attack, you couldn't be bothered to visit properly. You told me my absence was peaceful. Time to find your own place. Wesley slammed the paper down. We'll fight this. You can't just throw us on the street. I gestured to the notice. Read it carefully. It's perfectly legal, prepared by an attorney. You have 30 days from today. That's December 16th. I suggest you start looking for housing. The rest of Saturday deteriorated into chaos. Cora cried, pleaded, tried every emotional angle. We have nowhere to go. Winter is coming. We can't afford rent. You've had 4 years of free housing, I said. You should have savings. Wesley paced the living room, phone pressed to his ear, calling everyone he knew. By afternoon, he'd contacted some free online legal service, spoke with someone for 20 minutes, hung up looking deflated. What did they say? Cora asked desperately. Wesley's jaw clenched. Said the notice looks legitimate. Since we don't have a lease and don't pay rent, he can do this. Reality settling in. Sunday brought a new tactic from Cora. Mom would be ashamed of you, kicking out your own daughter, your own flesh and blood. I met her eyes coldly. Your mother would be ashamed of how you treat me, how you let your husband mock me, how you abandoned me in the hospital. Don't pretend you know what she'd think. Cora recoiled as if slapped. The house transformed into a Cold War zone. Wesley and Cora stopped speaking to me except in angry bursts. Meals became separate affairs. The television stayed on late into the night, volume deliberately loud, small acts of defiance. I documented everything, noise levels, times, behaviors, my notebook filled with entries. Monday, Wesley blocked my car in the driveway for 3 hours before moving it. Tuesday, Cora accidentally threw away mail that had been on the counter. Small harassments, testing boundaries. I responded by installing a lock on my bedroom door, matching the one on my study. Kept important documents in my car trunk now. Wednesday evening, 5 days after serving the notice, I sat in my study, reviewing my calendar. 25 days until the deadline. If they refused to leave, and I suspected they would, Margaret would file the unlawful detainer action. Court hearing 3 weeks after that. February before this ended, probably. I'd learned patience over decades in education. I could wait. A knock on my study door made me look up. "Dad, can we talk?" Cora's voice, small, tentative. I stared at the closed door. "Read the notice. 30 days. That's all the talking needed." "Dad, please." 25 days now. I suggest you start packing." Footsteps retreating. I returned to my calendar, marking off another day. 9 days after serving the notice, the phone calls began. Sunday afternoon, my cell rang. Cousin Janet from Tucson, voice tight with concern. "Eldon, I just got a message from Cora. She says you're evicting her? Your own daughter?" I kept my voice neutral. "That's correct. But why? She says you're throwing them out with no reason, no warning." I could hear Cora's narrative in every word. "Janet, I've housed them rent-free for 4 years. When I had a heart attack, they didn't visit properly. I gave them 30 days legal notice. That's all I owe anyone." Silence. "That seems harsh, Eldon." "Perhaps. It's also my legal right." She hung up shortly after. The second call came an hour later. My nephew Mark. Same story, different voice. Cora had been busy, messaging extended family, painting herself as victim. I kept responses short, factual, refusing to justify myself. By evening, my phone showed 6 calls, 4 voicemails. I listened to none of them. They didn't matter. This wasn't a popularity contest. It was a property matter, governed by law, not family opinion. 3 days later, Wednesday morning, I discovered the damage. I'd gone out for my cardiac rehab appointment, 90 minutes of supervised exercise and monitoring. Returned home around 11 to find my study door standing open, the lock mechanism hanging loose, screws stripped from the doorframe. My heart rate spiked, not cardiac distress, but fury carefully controlled. I stepped inside, filing cabinet still locked, desk drawers undisturbed, computer closed as I'd left it, but the door, the symbolic boundary, violated. Wesley was in the living room, feet on the coffee table, watching television. "Wesley, my study door lock is broken." He didn't look away from the screen. "Huh? That's weird. Must have been weak or something. It was fine this morning when I left for my appointment." Maybe it just gave out. Old house, old hardware. These things happen. The casual lie, the deliberate disrespect. I pulled out my phone, took photos of the damaged lock, the stripped screws, the door frame. Then I walked past him, got my keys, drove to the nearest police substation. Officer Rodriguez, mid-40s, professional demeanor, took the report. "You're filing for property damage?" "Yes, and I want it documented. I've served them with an eviction notice. This is retaliation." He made notes, assigned a case number. "Property damage, residential, estimated repair cost? $150 for locksmith, but I'm more concerned about the pattern of behavior. They have 21 days left on their notice. I expect more incidents." Rodriguez looked up from his paperwork. "You anticipating escalation?" "I'm preparing for it." He nodded slowly. "Smart. Keep documenting. Photos, times, descriptions. If it continues, you'll have evidence for the eviction hearing." I left with a police report number, stopped at a hardware store, bought a new deadbolt and a small wireless security camera, the kind that records to cloud storage. By evening, the new lock was installed, camera mounted inconspicuously on a bookshelf, angled to cover the study door and desk. I tested it from my phone. Clear image, motion-activated recording. Ready. The following Monday, December 1st, 15 days before the deadline, I woke to voices. My bedroom clock showed 1:47 a.m. Male voices, multiple, from downstairs. Laughter, music, glass clinking. I got up quietly, pulled on clothes, crept to the top of the stairs. The living room lights blazed. Wesley sat in the armchair, beer in hand, talking with 3 men I'd never seen. Large men, rough-looking, sprawled on my furniture. More beer bottles on the coffee table. The television played some action movie at high volume. One of the strangers noticed me on the stairs. "Hey, that the old man?" Wesley turned, raised his beer in mock salute. "Yeah, that's him. Don't worry, he's harmless." I descended slowly. Wesley, it's almost 2 in the morning. Who are these people? Friends of mine. We're just hanging out. Relax. In my house, at 2 a.m. on a Monday night. One of the men, tattooed arms, hostile eyes, leaned forward. You got a problem? I assessed the situation. 3 large men, potentially confrontational, middle of the night. I pulled out my phone, started recording video. I'm documenting this. You're trespassing. All of you need to leave. Now. Wesley stood, anger crossing his face. Put that phone away. These are my guests. This is my home. I kept recording, voice calm. This is my property. They're not on the lease, because you don't have a lease. They're trespassing. You have 10 seconds to ask them to leave, or I'm calling the police. 9, 8, 7. My thumb hovered over the emergency dial. The tattooed man rose, took a step toward me. Maybe you should go back to bed, old man. I didn't retreat. 6, 5. Something in my stillness, my complete lack of fear, made him pause. Wesley put a hand on the man's shoulder. Forget it. Not worth it. To his friends. Come on, let's go to my truck. We'll finish there. Grumbling, gathering beer bottles, the 3 men filed out. Wesley followed, shot me a venomous look. This isn't over. 14 days, I replied quietly. Then you're gone, whether you like it or not. The front door slammed. I stopped recording, saved the video, checked the timestamp, backed it up to cloud storage immediately. Then I sat at the dining table and opened my laptop, created a new document. Lease violation notice, guest policy violation. Typed out the incident, date, time, physical descriptions, Wesley's admission they were his friends, trespass on property. Printed 2 copies, one for my files, one to serve Wesley in the morning. By 3 a.m. I was back in bed, new lock, secure on my door, phone on the nightstand fully charged. Tomorrow I'd serve the violation notice, add it to the growing file. They thought they could intimidate me, make me back down. They didn't understand. I'd spent 35 years dealing with difficult parents, hostile board members, union grievances. I knew how to outlast opposition, how to follow procedures until procedures won. 14 days until the deadline. If they didn't leave voluntarily, court would force them. And every incident tonight, every broken lock, every 2 a.m. gathering, all of it would strengthen my case. I closed my eyes, slept soundly, because I was winning, slowly, systematically, but winning. December 16th arrived, the deadline. I woke early, checked every room of the house. Wesley and Cora's bedroom door closed, their belongings still present, cars in the driveway. They hadn't left, hadn't packed, hadn't made any visible effort to find alternative housing. I'd expected this, but seeing it confirmed brought cold satisfaction. I drove to Margaret Chen's office downtown carrying my folder, now thick with documentation, the original notice, police report about the broken lock, security camera footage burned to disk, the written lease violation notice, photos of damages, my detailed notebook. Margaret reviewed everything methodically. They didn't vacate. We filed today. She'd already prepared the forcible detainer lawsuit, Arizona's formal eviction action. I signed the complaint, wrote a check for the $218 filing fee. Margaret submitted it electronically to Maricopa County Justice Court before noon. Court hearing will be scheduled after the holidays, she explained. Probably early January. You'll receive notice of the date. I nodded. The legal machinery had engaged. Now came more waiting. The weeks between filing and hearing stretched tense and strange. Wesley's provocations intensified, blocking my path in hallways, leaving messes in shared spaces, playing music deliberately loud during hours I normally worked in my study, testing boundaries, seeking reaction. I documented everything, maintained icy silence, refused engagement. A few days before Christmas, Cora tried emotional appeal again, cornering me in the kitchen. It's Christmas, Dad. You're destroying our family. Can't we call a truce, at least through the holidays? Her voice carried desperation beneath manufactured sweetness. I set down my coffee cup carefully. You destroyed this family when you left me alone with a heart attack, when you told me my absence was peaceful. Christmas doesn't change facts. She recoiled as if struck. Christmas Eve arrived. I spent it alone in my bedroom, door locked, while Wesley and Cora threw a party in the living room. Loud music, laughter, voices of friends they'd invited. a demonstrative act of defiance. I ordered Chinese food delivery, ate in my room, watched a movie on my laptop with headphones. Unbothered, they could have their party. I had the court date. January 7th, 3 weeks after the lawsuit filing. I dressed in a suit, the same one I'd worn to school board meetings for decades. Dark navy, crisp white shirt, conservative tie. Professional presentation mattered. Margaret met me at the Maricopa County Justice Court building downtown, a blocky concrete structure housing small claims and eviction proceedings. We sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, reviewing strategy. "Let me do most of the talking," Margaret advised. "Answer questions the judge asks directly, briefly, factually. No emotion." I nodded. I'd testified before. Budget hearings, personnel disputes, board investigations. I understood courtroom decorum. Wesley and Cora arrived 10 minutes before the hearing. No attorney. Wesley wearing jeans and a wrinkled button-down. Cora in casual clothes. Both looking unprepared. They sat across the hallway. Wesley glaring. Cora staring at the floor. The bailiff called, "Woods versus Wesley and Cora Woods." We filed into the small courtroom. The judge, a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor, sat elevated behind the bench. "This is a forcible detainer action. Mr. Woods represented by counsel. Defendants appearing pro SC. Proceed." Margaret presented the case systematically. Property deed showing sole ownership. The 30-day notice, properly served November 16th. Proof of service, my testimony about handing each defendant their notice personally. The December 16th deadline passage without vacating. Police report documenting property damage. Security camera footage of the study door violation, photos. Written documentation of lease violations. The judge reviewed each exhibit, asked clarifying questions. "Mr. Woods, did the defendants have a written lease?" "No, Your Honor." "Did they pay rent?" "No, Your Honor." "How long did they reside in your property?" 4 years, Your Honor." "And you served proper notice on November 16th, giving them until December 16th to vacate?" "Correct, Your Honor. I personally handed each defendant their notice." The judge turned to Wesley and Cora. "Do you dispute any of these facts? Do you dispute that you received notice? That you didn't vacate? That you don't have a lease?" Wesley started to speak, voice rising. "He can't just—" The judge cut him off. "Answer the question." Wesley deflated. "No, but—" "Then you have no legal defense. This is a month-to-month tenancy termination. Proper notice was given. You failed to comply." She reviewed the police report about the damaged lock. "Property damage during the notice period. That's concerning." She looked at Wesley. "Sir, this doesn't help your position. Mr. Woods has been more than generous. 4 years of free housing. You've responded to lawful eviction notice with property damage and defiance." She picked up her pen, made notations. "I'm granting the plaintiff's petition. 10-day writ of restitution. Defendants must vacate the property within 10 days from today. That's January 17th. If you fail to vacate, the Maricopa County Constable will enforce removal and place your belongings at the curb. Court costs awarded to plaintiff." The gavel came down. Final. Binding. Margaret leaned close. "Perfect outcome. 10 days. If they're not out by the 17th, we request the writ of execution." I stood, collected my folder. Across the courtroom, Cora was crying quietly. Wesley sat rigid, fists clenched. They'd lost. The legal system had spoken. I followed Margaret into the hallway, feeling nothing except calm confirmation. Justice. Procedural. Official. We walked toward the exit, winter sunlight streaming through courthouse windows. 10 days, Margaret said as we reached the main doors. "If they're not out by the 17th, we file for the writ of execution. The constable will handle the physical removal." I nodded, pushed through the heavy door into January air. "There's one more thing I need to finalize," I said. Margaret glanced at me. "The will revision?" "Yes." "How soon can we complete it?" She checked her phone calendar. "The draft is ready. We can schedule the signing and notarization this week. Thursday work for you?" "Thursday's perfect." We reached the corner where our paths diverged, shook hands. "Congratulations, Mr. Woods. The hard part is done." I didn't smile. Not quite, but close. I turned toward the parking lot, folder under my arm, the January sun warm on my shoulders. 10 days until they're gone, and a will to finalize before they find out what else they've lost. Thursday, January 9th, 2 days after the hearing. I sat again in Margaret Chen's office, this time for the will signing ceremony. The document lay before me, printed on thick legal paper, every clause precisely worded. Margaret reviewed it section by section. Primary beneficiaries: American Heart Association, $200,000. Local School Foundation, the district where I'd spent my career, $180,000. Remaining assets placed in a charitable trust for educational scholarships. Cora received exactly $1, with the phrase, to acknowledge that she has not been forgotten. Margaret had prepared 2 witness signatures, her paralegal and office manager, neither with any connection to me or my family. The notary public waited. "This is bulletproof," Margaret confirmed. "Arizona doesn't require you to leave anything to adult children. The nominal dollar prevents challenges based on forgotten heirs. Once it's signed, notarized, and filed with my office, it's legally binding." I picked up the pen, signed my name on the designated line. Witnessed, notarized, sealed, complete. Sunday afternoon, January 12th. 5 days until the eviction deadline. The house existed in tense limbo, Wesley and Cora finally packing boxes, moving slowly as if delaying might change reality. I remained in my study, door open now since the security camera kept watch. Around 3 p.m. I heard Wesley's voice from the hallway, speaking on his phone. Tone casual, confident. My hand paused over my keyboard, that tone. I activated my phone's voice recorder, held it near the doorway, captured the one-sided conversation clearly. Wesley's words: "Yeah, after the old man kicks the bucket, we'll get at least $400K. House alone is worth $420. Just gotta wait him out." Pause. "Nah, he's being stubborn now, but whatever. We'll get it eventually. Blood is blood, right? She's his only kid." Laughter. "Exactly. Play the long game." The call ended, footsteps retreating. I stopped recording, played it back. Crystal clear. Every word documented. They weren't just mooching off me now. They were literally waiting for me to die, planning their inheritance. The heart attack hadn't been a wake-up call for them. It had been a financial preview. My hands remained steady as I saved the recording to 3 locations: phone, computer, cloud storage. Evidence. Not for court this time. For myself. Confirmation. Wednesday evening, January 15th, 2 days before the final deadline. I'd avoided Wesley and Cora mostly, communicating only when necessary. But tonight, I had something to communicate. I prepared dinner, something I rarely did anymore. Simple pasta, salad, adequate for 3. Set the dining table formally. When they emerged from their packing, I called out, "Dinner's ready. Please sit." Suspicion crossed their faces, but hunger won. They sat. Wesley wary, Cora uncertain. We ate in silence for several minutes. I set down my fork with deliberate precision. "I have something to inform you about. Thought you should know before you leave." Cora looked up, faint hope in her expression. "I've changed my will." The words landed flatly. "Everything goes to charity now. American Heart Association, school foundations, educational trusts. You'll get $1, Cora, exactly $1, to show you weren't forgotten. The rest, approximately $400,000, goes to organizations that actually serve a purpose." I watched their faces. Shock, comprehension, rage building. Wesley's fork clattered to his plate. "What? You senile old fool! You can't do that!" His voice rose to a shout. I remained seated, calm. "Already done. Signed, notarized, filed with my attorney. Legally irrevocable." Cora's face had gone white. "Dad, you can't. I'm your daughter. I'm your only child." "Yes. And when I had a heart attack, you visited once for 15 minutes. You told me my absence was peaceful. You let your husband mock me, use my home, destroy my property. Why would I leave you anything?" Wesley stood, chair scraping back violently. "This is because we wouldn't move out fast enough. You're that petty." I met his eyes coldly. "It's because I overheard your phone conversation Sunday. After the old man kicks the bucket, we'll get at least $400K. Just gotta wait him out. You weren't living here out of need. You were waiting for me to die so you could inherit. Well, surprise. There's nothing to inherit." The color drained from Wesley's face. He'd been caught. Cora looked between us, confused. "What phone call? Wesley, what is he talking about?" Wesley's hands clenched. You recorded me? That's invasion of privacy. My voice stayed level, almost clinical. In my own home, I can record what I hear. Arizona is a one-party consent state. The recording is legal and informative. I stood, collected my plate. You've been parasites, both of you, living off me while literally waiting for me to die. The heart attack was convenient for you, wasn't it? Speed up the timeline. Cora started crying, but these tears were different. Not sad tears, angry tears, frustrated tears. You can't do this. There are laws. Children have rights. Adult children have no inheritance rights in Arizona. I asked my attorney specifically. I can leave my estate to whoever I choose. I choose charity, people who need it, organizations that help others instead of exploit them. I walked to the kitchen, rinsed my dish, left it in the drainer. Behind me, Wesley was shouting something, threats, curses, desperate arguments, Cora's sobs. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, closed and locked the door, sat on the edge of the bed in the quiet. It was done. All of it. The eviction, the will, the truth. They knew everything now, knew they'd lost completely. 2 more days of their presence, then silence. My house, my life, my choices. Exactly as it should be. Friday morning, January 17th. Deadline day. I woke at 6, dressed, made coffee, sat in my study watching the security camera feeds. The house was chaos, boxes half-packed, furniture askew, Wesley and Cora moving frantically through rooms grabbing belongings. They'd left it to the last possible moment. At 9 a.m. sharp, a patrol car pulled into the driveway. I watched from my study window as the Maricopa County Constable, a stocky man in uniform, official documents in hand, approached the front door, knocked firmly. I walked downstairs, opened it. Mr. Woods, I'm Constable Martinez. I'm here to enforce the writ of restitution issued by Justice Court. I nodded. They're still inside, packing. His expression stayed professional. Do they understand they must vacate today? They understand. Whether they accept it is another matter. Martinez stepped inside, called out in an authoritative voice. This is the Maricopa County Constable. You are required to vacate these premises immediately. You may take your personal belongings. You have until 2 p.m. to complete removal. After that time, any remaining items will be placed at the curb. The next 5 hours were controlled chaos. Wesley shouted obscenities while throwing clothes into garbage bags. Cora cried while wrapping dishes in newspaper. They'd rented a U-Haul truck. I saw it parked on the street, orange and white, pathetically small for 4 years of accumulated possessions. The constable remained present, stationed in the living room, watching. Twice he had to warn Wesley about his language and aggressive movements. Sir, calm down, or I'll have to cite you for disorderly conduct. This is a legal eviction. You need to comply peacefully. Wesley glared but moderated his behavior. I stayed in my study mostly, door open, watching the removal. They took furniture that was theirs, a bedroom set, a cheap entertainment center, left the rest. By 1:30, the U-Haul was loaded haphazardly, boxes and furniture jammed inside without organization. Cora made one last trip through the house, eyes red from crying. She looked toward my study. I met her gaze. She opened her mouth as if to speak, closed it, turned away. At 10 minutes before 2, Wesley gunned the U-Haul's engine and pulled away from the curb. Cora followed in their sedan. The constable walked through the house with me, documenting that it was now vacant. Signed the completion form. Property is returned to your possession, Mr. Woods. Shook my hand. Left. I learned the details later, pieced together from observation and a bitter phone call Cora made to a cousin that someone overheard and shared. No apartment would take them. No first month, last month, and deposit money saved after years of free living. No references I would provide. They'd found the cheapest motel on the outskirts of Phoenix, a run-down place off the interstate where the neon sign flickered and the parking lot held suspicious characters. $650 per week. No kitchen, no lease. Pay weekly or get out. Cora's part-time spa income, $1,600 monthly, couldn't cover it. Wesley's cryptocurrency business generated nothing. Within a week, their savings, whatever meager amount they'd scraped together, was gone. The financial reality they'd avoided for 4 years by living off me crashed down like a collapsing building. 8 days after the eviction, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Just a photo. No text. I opened it. Wesley in what appeared to be a police station, sitting at a desk, officer visible in the background. An hour later, a second message from the same number. Thought you'd want to know. Fraud charges. Multiple victims. I searched online news, found a brief article in the Phoenix business section. Local man charged in cryptocurrency investment scheme. Wesley's name. Accusations of operating a pump-and-dump scheme, convincing investors to buy worthless tokens, then cashing out while values collapsed. 7 identified victims. Combined losses over $43,000. Charges: wire fraud, securities fraud, bail set at $15,000. So that's what Wesley's business had been. Not cryptocurrency investment, cryptocurrency fraud. And now it had caught up with him. I felt no satisfaction, just cold acknowledgement. Wesley couldn't make bail. $15,000 might as well have been $1 million. He sat in Maricopa County Jail for 6 days while Cora scrambled, calling distant relatives, begging for help. Finally, some relative I'd never met posted bail. Wesley was released pending trial, returned to the motel with Cora, but something had broken. The anonymous messages suggested arguments, loud ones, neighbors complaining, the stress of poverty, legal trouble, homelessness, and consequences. 3 weeks after Wesley's arrest, mid-February by my calendar, another anonymous message, photo of court documents, divorce filing, Cora petitioning to dissolve the marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. The parasitic partnership was collapsing from within. I saved the photo, filed it with my other documentation, not because I needed it, just because completion mattered. The story had an ending. Wesley facing criminal charges, Cora finally cutting ties, the natural consequences of parasitic living and fraudulent schemes. I hadn't caused Wesley's arrest. Wesley's own criminal behavior had. But the eviction had accelerated everything, removed the protective bubble of free housing, exposed them to the harsh reality they'd been avoiding. Sometimes justice wasn't what you did. It was what you stopped enabling. Early February brought something I hadn't experienced in 4 years. Genuine solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. The distinction mattered. I woke when my body wanted to wake, not when Wesley's footsteps thundered overhead. Ate what I wanted, when I wanted, without meal planning around others or finding my groceries consumed. The house breathed differently. Lighter. My cardiac rehabilitation continued 3 times weekly. Monitored exercise, heart rate tracking, steady improvement. Dr. Mitchell expressed satisfaction at my progress. Mr. Woods, your progress is excellent. Whatever stress you were under before, it's clearly gone. Your numbers tell a story. I just nodded. Some things didn't require explanation. I started small projects. Repainting the hallway, organizing the garage, planting a garden bed in the front yard. Simple acts of ownership, of reclaiming space. Valentine's Day, February 14th. I was reviewing finances at the kitchen table when my phone buzzed. Text message, Cora's name. I stared at it before opening. Dad, I'm sorry. We were wrong. Can we talk? 8 words. 4 months of absence, exploitation, legal battles, eviction, reduced to 8 words. I set the phone down. Didn't respond immediately. 3 days I thought about it. Worked in the yard, attended rehab, prepared meals, lived my quiet life. The message sat unanswered. What did Cora want? Reconciliation? Financial help? A return to the way things were? And what did I want? A daughter who'd abandoned me during a heart attack? A daughter who'd told me my absence was peaceful? But also my daughter, my only child, the only remaining connection to my late wife. February 17th, 3 days after Cora's message. I sat at my desk, phone in hand, composing carefully. Cora, I love you, but respect comes before forgiveness. When you're ready to treat me like a father, not a resource, we can talk. Not before. I read it 3 times, adjusted nothing. Sent it. The response was immediate. 3 dots showing she was typing. Then the dot stopped. No reply came. Hours passed. Days. Nothing. I experienced no disappointment. Just recognition. She wasn't ready. Maybe she'd never be ready. Real change required more than an apology text when life got hard. It required understanding what had been wrong in the first place. Whether Cora understood that, time would tell, or not. Either way, my life continued. Mid-March, I saw the news update. Brief article in the Phoenix paper's court section. Wesley entering a guilty plea to reduced fraud charges. Sentence, 18 months probation, community service. Restitution of $43,000 to identified victims. No jail time beyond the 6 days already served. I read it twice. Felt nothing except closure. Wesley's criminal behavior had consequences. The victims would receive some compensation. Wesley would spend the next year and a half under supervision, paying off debt. Justice. Imperfect, as all human justice was, but real. A few days later, another brief article, divorce finalized. Cora Woods, single status. Tiny studio apartment in a working-class neighborhood. 2 jobs, full-time at a dental office, part-time at the spa. Making her own way, learning what financial independence actually required. The lessons I couldn't teach her while she was insulated from consequences. Late March. Arizona spring, arriving in warm mornings and blooming desert flowers. I sat on my back patio at sunrise, coffee cup in hand, watching the sky shift from purple to orange to blue. Next door, Mrs. Patterson was in her yard, watering plants. She noticed me, waved. "Morning, Eldon. Beautiful day." I waved back, smiled. "Beautiful indeed." My phone buzzed. Message from Margaret Chen. "All estate documents finalized and filed. You're all set, Mr. Woods." I replied, "Thank you for everything, Margaret." Her response, "My pleasure. You handled everything with impressive discipline. Enjoy your peace." I set the phone down, looked at my yard. The flower bed I'd planted 2 weeks ago showed new growth. Purple verbena, yellow lantana, red salvia. Desert plants, hardy, thriving in harsh conditions. I'd chosen them deliberately, symbols of resilience, of survival, of blooming after difficulty. My heart beat steadily in my chest, the heart that had nearly stopped on Halloween night, the heart that was healing. Everything was healing. I took a sip of coffee, thought about the past 6 months, the Halloween attack, the hospital isolation, the legal battles, the eviction, Wesley's arrest, Cora's silence. All of it led here, to this patio, this sunrise, this peace. People might call it revenge. I called it justice. Justice for myself, justice for my boundaries, justice for my life. I'd stopped enabling, started enforcing, used systems designed to protect property owners, to enforce contracts, to distribute estates according to actual wishes rather than assumed obligations. And now I lived in the results. Quiet, peaceful, free. For the first time in 4 years, no, longer since my wife's death 5 years ago, I felt whole. Not because I'd hurt anyone, but because I'd stopped letting anyone hurt me. The coffee was good, the sunrise was beautiful, the flowers would bloom. Life continued. Better. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.